Work.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Angela Lesperance. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the president of this wonderful church. Please join me in welcoming Pastor Laura Paul. She currently serves as the interim director of family ministry at Mount Vernon Unitarian Church in Alexandria, Virginia, and as an interim preacher, officiant, and pastoral care provider. Laura and her husband Charles live in a small town in Maryland and try to keep in close touch with 3 young adult sons. I also have 3 young adult sons who astonish them with their awesomeness. Laura loves reading, drinking tea, building beloved community, and standing barefoot on.
Can someone unmute the pulpit again, please? Anybody that can hear me? Sorry.
In your great hymnal, we are a gentle, angry people.
Please remain standing as Chris Tasowski lights our chalice with words by Anastasia Baroche. As we light this flame of hope, may our congregation become a kaleidoscope of souls and people. In the presence of this flame, in me, in you, in us, is an invitation to sit at the table. May we tend our soul fire through these challenging and trying times to open the hearts and minds of all who enter our doors.
Of course, for first story with you today, I brought props and all kinds of other things to manage, so you're welcome. I invite you to gather round if you'd like. Turn on your listening ears. We hear a wisdom tale this morning. It's called Milk and Sugar, and this sort of version, because I'm changing it, of course, can be found in a wonderful book called The Ancient Stories for Modern Times, 50 Short Wisdom Tales for All Ages. So, and normally I just tell the story, but because it's my first Sunday with you, I have the words in front of me. So if I'm looking down, it's not because I'm not paying attention to you. Long. Everybody's good? No blood? Okay. Long and long ago, the Persians, in what is now modern day Iraq, Iran, other countries, the vast empire, the Persians fled their homeland during a time of war and set out to save themselves and their religious faith. They were Zoroastrian at that time. They landed in Sanja, a port in the Indian state of Gujarat. The king, Jadavrana, was the ruler of the land, and a good ruler. But he also knew his land was already crowded with his own people, and he could not let these refugees enter. The king and his court went to meet the Persians when they landed, but found, surprise, surprise, they did not speak the same language. To greet the strangers, but also communicate that the land was already filled to the brim, he presented them with a full bowl of milk. The king then gestured to the Zoroastrian priests who were there to say, see, we're full, we're full. They couldn't take any more people into the land. The Zoroastrian priests immediately got the message, and since they were a peaceful and peace-loving religious people, they wanted to send back a message that they understood, but that they would make the land and the community richer and more prosperous through their good values, knowledge, and hard work. So the priests dissolved sugar into the milk to demonstrate that they would bring sweetness with all that they knew. king was very impressed and covered in sugar. He granted them asylum in this full and crowded land and welcomed them with gifts and helped them settle into their new home. He didn't just turn them loose. They were welcomed and offered help. Parsis, Persia, the Zoroastrians thus survived and thrived in their new home, blended into India like sugar in the milk. Thank you for listening. The more milk and sugar we bring when we get together, the happier. It's now time, as you remain seated here, for our prayer hymn. It is number 142 in your great hymnal, if you need the words. Let there be light. In the silence that follows this spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys and concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Spirit of love and mystery, be with us in this time of uncertainty. There are so many feelings we are experiencing, some we cannot even name. We lift up the families and communities of those who died over the Potomac River in the terrible plane crash. To those federal workers who daily are receiving notices encouraging them to leave their employment. To those targeted by law enforcement for the color of their skin or their immigration status. To those whose lives have been lost because access to health care became a political tool. Spirit, help us remember and embrace the power of community. Help us remember that our circles of influence and care are as strong as the depth and breadth of our connections. Help us remember the compassionate and wise teachings of Jesus, who, in resisting empire, taught that we treat our neighbors as we want to be treated and that all people are our neighbors. May we, as Unitarian Universalists, visibly live our commonly held values and act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly in the world. May it be so, and amen. I light a candle for the joys and concerns of those beloveds joining us virtually. I light a candle for all else that we hold in our hearts and our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help. As am I. Please reach out with any needs.
The mission of Channing Memorial Church is to invite seekers into spiritual community, connect souls in mystery and wonder, and ignite compassion into action. That's all about drawing the circle wide. And it is our wide circle of support that fuels this mission. The gifts of time, talent, and treasure that each one of us gives in love is what makes our mission real. That is why our sacred liturgy each week includes a time of offering. As you give what you can in generosity and love, your gifts are gratefully received. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. I invite the ushers forward to receive the offering. For all that you give and all that you do for our church community and its wider concerns, we give thanks. More Love by Nancy MacDonald Lavin. We gather in community every Sunday in a state of conflict for our very souls, a state both expansively hopeful and restrictively confined. We are hopeful that we might rise to meet a new day for those who seek and serve the Spirit. Hopeful that each and every one of us might encounter the sacred within, among, and beyond every human soul. And hopeful that such an encounter might work through us to topple the idolatries of our age. And yet we also gather as a people who are not yet free, a people confined, unfree, contained. We are confined, unfree, contained, because in this culture of division built upon the pain of the people at the margins, even the decent people hold our love too tightly. Putting it in boxes, prefacing it with qualifications. I will love you if. I will see you if. I will bear the truth of my soul alongside you if, and only if, you agree with me, you look like me, you stand like me, you think like me, you act like me, you sing like me, you wear your gender on your sleeve and produce it upon demand. I will love you and will meet you in the sanctuary of our hearts if and only if you give me evidence of your good liberal virtues. If and only if you never fail to speak the language of the movement and never weep upon a street corner out of grief for your sheer inadequacy and the vastness of the struggle that you cannot even name. We are imprisoned by these ifs and these only ifs. We are confined by the smallness of our loving, even as our souls remind us that we can only get free if we all get free together. And so today, as we intersect in honest work, let our hopefulness mingle with our conviction. Let our willingness to love beyond our expectations or experience break down our long-held barriers. Let our willingness to be honest about the hardest questions open us to new truths. May there truly be more love with no labels and no binary and no preface and no qualifications and no arithmetic and no limit. May there be more love to liberate us all, and may we keep on today and every day until we find it and share it inch by precious inch with one another and the world. Hear the words of Cole Arthur Riley. Exclusion operates by the same rule of mutuality as welcome, for it harms both the excluded and the excluder. If you are the hands of exclusion for long enough, you learn acceptance only at the hands of someone else's exile. You learn belonging as competition, not restoration. It is also a kind of restlessness, for the energy you expend forbidding others to walk through the door of community is only matched by the energy you expend competing to stay inside yourself. This is maybe more dangerous. No one ever perceives the doorkeeper as needing an invitation themselves. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as Gabby leads us in singing Draw the Circle Wide. The lyrics are printed in your order of service. Gabby will sing it through once, and then we'll sing it through once as a congregation.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, everyone. Risking a new song. I want to call your minds back. For some of us, it may have been many years. But do you remember learning to draw shapes? Crayon clutched in your hand. Perhaps tongue stuck into the cheek of your mouth as you concentrated, especially on circles somehow, on purpose. Trying to get the ends to meet just so. Maybe you remember the smell of the crayon. Make that as circly as possible, as round as possible, end to end, no gaps. Hard work. Hard work. You know what? It's still hard work to do that. And I'm finding because sometimes it's harder to hold that crayon now. I think I prefer the Zen practice of Enzo circles. Now, it looks, when you look at an Enzo circle, it almost looks like it's open and quickly drawn because there's a nice dark spot and then it's darker and then it gets lighter and lighter as it comes around again. As if, we're just going to swish. But if you really look at an Enzo circle, you realize that it also took attention and concentration, but the purpose is different. It's not to make a perfect circle. Leslie Hazelton, in their book, Agnostic, A Spirited Manifesto, wrote this: the beauty of the Zen circle, or Enso, lies precisely, or more precisely, imprecisely, in its imperfection. That is what speaks to us and draws us in. A perfect circle is uninteresting. a closed system containing nothing, while an imperfect one vibrates with warmth. It is open, human, fallible, an expression that is of soul. That perfectly imperfect circle that still took intention and attention to create. I think about that in the samples I've seen where you can see the bristles of the brush that was used to create it, and the color of the ink as it changes as the circle completes. It's not a quick swish. I think also then of this very, well, maybe not. Maybe you haven't heard it before, I shouldn't say that. Poem by Edwin Markham. It's called Outwitted. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took him in. And not kind of took him in by tricking him. I would say invited him in. How's that? I think about that idea of circles a lot as I can begin thinking about these circles of connection. Suddenly you meet someone in the market that you know from somewhere else. Does it take you a moment to remember where I know them? Where do I know them? It's like a kid seeing a teacher at the grocery store. You don't live at school? Shocking. Drawing that circle to be inclusive is such a radical act. Oh my goodness. Think about that, inviting people into where you are. Especially at a time when it feels like the circles are being drawn like wagons in the settler days, circling around for protection, keeping other out, excluding rather than including, saying you are other, you are not welcome here, you are not like me, therefore you are not worthy. How cruel is that? How false is that? How empty the circle becomes when everything in the center is exactly the same, and all the good and juicy stuff might be on the outside, but you'll never know it. Our circles as Unitarian and Universalists can sometimes be closed like that, right? Let's get real. Sometimes we are within the circle, within the walls, and we are not out amongst the community, living our lives by our values in such a way that the world will know who we are. Right? Living our lives by things as simple as our values of pluralism, equity, and interdependence. That we belong to one another, and one another is a wide circle indeed. It includes all our neighbors, as our wise teacher once said. The practice of pluralism, of finding wisdom in many places, maybe specifically this morning talking about many religions, Zoroastrianism and Hinduism and Christianity and Buddhism, and I covered a lot of ground just with readings, and did you look a little bit of everything? There's where we talk about pluralism. There is no one way, no one perfect and right way anymore. There's just one perfect and right circle. It's hard. It's hard to embrace pluralism in that way, because so often things get wound up in, well, political stuff, right? We keep changing what is true. Is that possible? To change what is true? We think of that circle of equity, of making sure that each person has what they need to thrive, not just survive. So if you cannot see, or if you've seen that cartoon, if you cannot see over the fence to watch the baseball game without having paid for a ticket, because you can't afford a ticket, is your box tall enough? Everybody having the same box will not result in everyone being able to see over the fence. Maybe you need a taller box. Maybe you need a ticket. Maybe you need a ramp to the door instead of stairs. Maybe you need an assisted hearing device to be part of the community more fully. The thing is, that brings us to interdependence, that idea that we are not separate beings with each within our own little circles. We need one another. And it may be we need one another to help open a door, or to help figure out how to put the lovely mic on properly in the morning, in a new place. Or for those of us with privilege to raise our voices for those who have been shoved outside the circle way too many times and for far too long. And that is a scary thing sometimes too. And maybe especially right now. What is the cost of raising your voice for those whose voices have been silenced too often? Thought of that a lot as I was looking through readings, and I got to sit next to Nancy McDonald Ladd yesterday at seminary for a day. That was pretty cool, Reverend Nancy. So when I got to tell her we were reading her words this morning, I was really struck by that we are imprisoned by these ifs and these only ifs. We are confined by the smallness of our loving, even as our souls remind us that we can only get free if we all get free together. I feel a little called out on the ifs and only ifs, because I know I have used that language. You can come in, but only if you will believe like me. You will speak like me. What happens if I let that go? What happens if I let that go, that expectation that you will be like me, that you will think like me, you will love like me? What happens? Here's what I think happens. The circle widens. That circle is elastic then. It moves. It changes. It shines. It's glorious. And then we all get free together. We keep pushing. That ability to be flexible while still holding your own core beliefs, your core values, is part of why every 10 to 15 years, the Unitarian Universalist Association has written into their bylaws that we look at what our statement of belief, of value, contains. Our faith is an examined faith that's built into the very earliest iterations of it, back in 1647 with the publication of the Cambridge Platform. That's a whole different sermon. Love made its way into the wording of the Cambridge Platform in 1647. It is not a new value in a congregationalist setting. Last summer, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations voted to adopt new language expressing our values and our principles and the sources of our faith. It's all in there. We may have the lovely graphic of just those key words, those values, but the principles and sources are also in the larger document. Those changes sought to grow our ideas of loving as individuals and as a faith, to widen the circle and even go beyond the idea of any borders, any container for that. Can you imagine? The circle got so wide it just doesn't even exist anymore. That's a little scary too, right? How do we define ourselves if we don't have a container? We suck. That idea of moving that circle, stretching that circle so wide is, as Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt said, diversity and inclusivity like that, widening that circle that far is terribly hard, terribly uncomfortable, definitely unsettling. I don't know, can you feel a little bit of, oh, am I calling you to that? And often quite frustrating, because it requires talking to a lot of people. Let's be in dialogue. Let's figure out what we hold in common. Mangat says, what I know about being inclusive, crossing from culture to culture, learning the language of diversity, is that it's the work of a lifetime. Oh my goodness. A lifetime? Can't we just do it? Be done? That's it? No. Like anything really worth doing, it is worth doing well and permanently and forever. Keep learning, keep pushing. I think about this and the difficulty of this, because there's that bit of, well, does that mean everybody will want to belong? Everybody will be inside that wide circle? Can we say you can believe anything you want? No. That is not what Unitarian Universalism is. Not believing anything you want. Believing in many ways, perhaps. Maybe there are a few people you could think of who would be difficult at best to welcome into the circle of Unitarian Universalism. It might not be a good fit. But maybe change is possible. When I think of that idea of, is the circle wide enough for all? I think of the Koloff author Riley reading, if you practice exclusion long enough, belonging becomes competition rather than restoration. We are seeing that idea writ large on a national, probably global stage right now. The pie apparently is not big enough, and some people don't deserve any. No. The energy then becomes all about gatekeeping, keeping that circle small, perfectly formed, with no opening. rather than on growing. I want to invite you into another moment of contemplation, really just a short moment here. But this is something to think of and hold on to for just a few minutes for the end of the service. Think for a moment. Take a few breaths and find a word, whether it's for a feeling or an event, when you felt included, welcomed, seen, invited into the circle. Hold that word in your heart. If you're joining us online, please do perhaps think of it, and then we'll write it in the chat later. We'll use these words as our benediction today. So you are the benediction today. So just pause for a moment. Find your word. All right, you have a word? You probably have 5 at this point. Just one. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts here. I won't leave you with many, but that Jane Edmondson wrote, "Being excluded kills." And we're finding that. It kills the spirit, sometimes kills the body. Being excluded is not a simple act without consequences. Being chosen, Jan writes, is uniquely healing. Beloveds, let us be not chosen people, but choosing people. Let us choose to widen the circle of belonging. Let us choose to seek belonging outside of our usual circles. Let us both lean in to welcome and reach out for connection. Can you picture that? Grow both your internal circle of compassion for yourself and your outer circles of community. Be brave. Be ready to hear, not yet. We need each other, everyone, to thrive and survive in our perfectly imperfect circle of love with a capital L. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in our hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us.
Now you're up. Do you have your word?
Yeah, I will read the words from Zoom.
Excellent. Okay.
We have from Linda Myers, her word is embraced.
Embraced. All right.
From Kathy Food, her word is seen.
Seen.
And from Gail, we have social justice. Now,
Social
I'm not going to tell her
justice.
it's 2 words.
No, that's let's think of it as one word.
It's
right?
one thought.
Hyphen. It's
yeah,
hyphen.
it's one thought. It's one
Social justice.
Social
Embraced. Seen. Anyone else have a word?
Accessible.
Accessible.
Family.
Family. Heard. Team. Hope. And home.
Worthy.
Worthy.
Grateful.
Grateful. Sharing. Joyful.
Safe.
Safe.
Blessed.
Blessed.
Vulnerable.
Known. Vulnerable.
I have from Joy Wood online, her word is enabled.
Enabled. All right.
Open.
Open. Draw the circle wide, beloveds. Draw it wider still. No one is alone. We are together. Beloved, included, embracing. Amen.
Amen.
And blessed be. Go in peace.